Welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from wherever in the world you may be. Welcome to you from Australia. Welcome to you from Hong Kong. Welcome to you from New York, from Georgia and Florida. I've been getting a lot of listeners from different places. Welcome to John's Tarot. I want to talk a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about awakening and how it is. What is it like to have an awakening, and what are the signs of having an awakening? Before I do that, though, I want to say that several listeners have suggested there may be a book hidden within these podcasts. If you're an editor, publisher, or someone experienced in manuscript development and see potential in the material, please feel free to contact me through my website or email. I'm open to a conversation. So that was my thought for the week. I'm at a threshold myself, an awakening. I think I have enough material out there to do a nice manuscript, but I know it's going to take work.
The pain.
Yeah, that's just how that is. I am coming up on, what's probably bringing this up is I'm coming up on a sobriety anniversary. It'll be on June 6th. It'll be 37 years. And I specifically remember things going on with me that brought me up to that period of time where I always say I hung up my guns. And there are different ways. People come about spiritual awakenings at different ways. I came about it through sobriety. It was either get sober or die. You might feel in your own life, if you have signs that are like a growing sense that your old life no longer fits, dissatisfaction with old beliefs, assumptions, or identities, increased self-reflection and questioning. I have them written down here. Powerful dreams or symbolic experiences, encounters with synchronistic or meaningful coincidence. That's a big sign that you're heading towards awakening. A greater interest in symbolism, mythology, spirituality, psychology, or philosophy. That was big for me too. I was looking for, when I came into the process, I found Buddhism, and I found enough power in Buddhism where I was able to connect to, I don't know what it is, the mystic law or the universe, but I found it through Buddhism. I couldn't find it through Christianity. A confrontation with previously hidden aspects of yourself, the shadow. I certainly had to deal with that stuff, even whether I was ready or not. A desire for authenticity rather than approval. A feeling called towards service or contribution. That is definitely an awakening feeling. Periods of uncertainty where the old identity is dissolving, but the new one has not fully emerged. You can come about the need for doing awakening and through addiction and recovery. Many people like myself, alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, other compulsive behaviors where you just say, I can't live this way any longer. Or your doorway may be lost. Death of a spouse, death of a parent, death of a child, death of a close friend, where you say, my old way of looking at things is just not going to cut it. I need to upgrade my thinking. I need to upgrade myself. Or a serious illness. Maybe you faced a cancer or heart disease, a chronic illness, or major surgery. I had a major surgery about 7 years into sobriety. And, I had a confrontation with my own mortality. Confrontation with mortality frequently initiates deeper reflection. What do you know? A psychological crisis, depression, anxiety, burnout, existential crisis, loss of meaning. Sometimes the psyche itself demands change. Relationship events, divorce, betrayal, empty nest, major family conflict. Relationships often expose unconscious patterns. When you start seeing patterns patterns that repeat, it's time for an upgrade. It's time for what I'm calling a spiritual awakening. Trauma. Have you been in a war, violence, abuse, natural disaster? The biggest trauma I probably went through was COVID when I was working as a nurse on ICU. I'm still working as a nurse on ICU. I'm in a bit of a transition on that. Peak experience. Mystical experiences, meditation retreats, pilgrimages, psychedelic experiences. I could talk about that sometime. I've had a few of those. Near-death experiences. I'd rather not have one of those. These can provide glimpses of a larger reality. though the challenge remains integration. Life transitions, a midlife transition, aging, I'm dealing with that. Becoming a parent, I never had to deal with that one. Becoming a grandparent, facing mortality. These are some of the things that you experience when you're having a spiritual awakening. I see a spiritual awakening as a process rather than an event, where the old personality or identity can no longer effectively function in an increasingly complex environment. So the person I currently am, is no longer functioning, is no longer to function at the level that I want. That it's holding me back from things that I want to do in my life. I remember when before I got sober, like I said, I'm coming up on 37 years. So I came in through that way. And I was having synchronicities. I was having severe synchronicities. Things were happening in my life I couldn't explain, especially once I got involved with the spiritual practice that worked for me. And funny that I was looking for a spiritual practice. Also, I was noticing in my life, I was going, I was dissatisfied that the things in my life are not the way I wanted it. I was like, I'm looking around. I'm a ne'er-do-well, partly homeless, alcoholic addict, and well, where's my beautiful home? Where's my beautiful wife? Where's my car? Where's my career? Where are those things in my life? I started looking at that and asking myself those deeper questions. Well, where are those things? I really didn't. I could see that, but I couldn't understand that it was my behavior that was holding me back from it. It wasn't until after I got sober and then I crossed the threshold and started doing some serious work, I was able to achieve those things. And it was those types of questions that I was having. I also looked a little bit at Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell, when we talk about these things, an awakening. Of course, Carl Jung talks about it. He calls it individuation. I call it an awakening. When we talk about the path, the fool's journey, it's the same awakening. It'll take you on that path. Joseph Campbell called it the call to adventure. But it's the same thing. The ordinary world is no longer sufficient. Something has changed. The hero cannot remain where they are. We are all the hero in our own stories. And then calls what Campbell called crossing the threshold, which is the exact language I've been using for years. The world is left behind. The new world is not yet understood. This is often accompanied by fear, uncertainty, loss, confusion. The hero rarely crosses the threshold because they want to. They cross because they must. And that was what was going on with me. I didn't really want to get sober. I just wanted the pain to stop. I'll tell you. And one other thing here, and then Campbell says trials, helpers, and transformation corresponds to what I call the map. And then finally, the return, where in the return, in Campbell's most important insight, the hero doesn't stay on the mountaintop. They come back. They bring something back, a gift, a lesson, a realization. In my framework, this is integration. And that's what happens. I remember in my life, what was going on was, like I said, well, I was asking myself, where are these things? And I had a part of me that was saying, it was asking those deeper questions. Why are these things happening in my life? Why aren't I being successful? Why don't I have a career? Blah, blah, blah. And because there was a part of me that wanted to grow beyond the current container I was holding. And that was a container of family dynamics. I was a person I was brought up to be. Family expectations, family dynamics, social expectations. And it was really what I was an immature teenager in a 31-year-old body. That's what I was. And I wanted to grow beyond that. I didn't understand that, but that was causing me a lot of psychic pain. And then the universe started reacting on me. I encountered the Buddhism. I encountered the I Ching came to me and give me some symbolic guidance on how to do this thing and how to move forward. And it's like I said, it hasn't been an event. It's been a process because you You no sooner accomplish something than you start again. As I talked about in the Fool's Journey, you start again, only you're a little bit more awake. And then you go through the process again, and you're a little bit more awake. And that is normal human maturation. And I hope you're experiencing that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do a quick tarot reading. And let me move over to the tarot cam. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, and I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. I'm going to get through these kind of quick. My next one, this is going to be the threshold, the first part of awakening. My next one is going to be the map. I mentioned it in the program just now. And then finally, the integration. And I'll do short ones. I've been sick all week, and I'm going to make these really quick this week because I'm just not up to it. But I'm doing the best I can. All right. So my question is, how does a person know when they are at a threshold or awakening? I'm just going to throw 3 cards. How does the people know when they are at a threshold or awakening? I hope you enjoyed my last podcast last week where I talked about the symbolic container and how meaning comes out of the symbolic container. And all last week was kind of interesting. And I had somebody listen to me in Hong Kong. They pulled like 60 listens, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I offered to like if you want to, if you want to put together a manuscript with me, just contact me. We'll work it out. And that way, if we work it out, you'll have access to me and fill in all the blanks. Because I have a lot more stuff, a lot more material. That material I did last week on the container, that was new material. The material I did the week before on what was that? Was on how does tarot work? That was new material, and I'm pulling it out of some of the old material. But okay, how does a person know if they're at a threshold or an awakening? That's a good question. How does a person know if they're at a threshold or an awakening? How does a person know if they are at a threshold or an awakening? Well, I knew something had to change because I couldn't go on the way I was going on. I was so crazy. I was listening to the radio. I didn't own a radio. I was crazy. And, but my life has dramatically changed. So how does a person know if they're at a threshold? I see this guy on, it's not a guy, I see some videos on YouTube, and it's asking the same type of questions about awakening and Carl Jung, and then they want to charge you for a book. You know what stuff I'm doing? I'm talking about the same material, but I'm giving you free tools in order to do it with. The whole Soul Awakening series, a deck of tarot cards, you might get yourself a copy of the I Ching, and you're going to have everything you need to move through life, to move through at a different level. And I show you how to use them throughout the process. So how does a person know if they're at a threshold or awakening? Let's cut the deck. First card is the 7 of Cups. 7 of Cups, you see a guy with facing a cloud, and on the cloud are all the cups, and that's at a point of indecision, where you have so many options, but you just don't know what to do. Mostly it's a point of indecision. If you're at a point of indecision in your life, that's probably an indicator that you are at a threshold or a point of a new awakening in your life, and you're just unsure about which path to take. And you see all the things that are on there. Oh, a woman's head coming out of the cup, a ghost coming out of the cup, a snake, a wreath, treasure, a castle. You're just unsure. You're at a place of uncertainty. How else would a person know if they're at a threshold or place of awakening? The 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords, you see a man. He's holding a green tunic. He's holding a sword on his shoulder. He's got another sword on the ground. There's 2 guys walking away. This is sometimes a card. Now, usually I say this is somebody who knows the truth, but it's also a card of deception. And are you deceiving yourself? Are what you perceiving the truth about yourself? Are you able to do better? Are you telling yourself this is the best you can do? And that's what I mean about perceiving the truth about yourself. There's a saying in the 12-step organization I belong to, and it is, do not bullshit thyself. Are you bullshitting yourself? And that's a question to ask yourself. And then the third card is the Four of Swords. Four of Swords is your man laying on a, look like he's in a mausoleum. There's 3 swords above him and a glass window behind him. And this indicates, take some time to meditate on the issue. Take some time to rest and think about this. You will have some light that will guide you. You see the lighted window in the background over there. You'll have some light that will guide you, but you got to think about this. Are you carrying forth habits or ideas or wounds from your family, from your grandfather, from your great-grandfather? These things can be passed down multi-generationally. And are you carrying any of these forth? And why they appear is usually what I still call maladaptive behaviors. And these are behaviors that will be passed down multi-generationally and that are causing disruption in your life and are holding you back. So take some time and think about this. If you're throwing some cards, see what comes up for you. This was a big one for me. The multi-generational maladaptive behaviors was big on me, and I was carrying weight on my shoulders that was not really mine to carry forth. And when I finally had to resolve it in my own life, but it was stuff that came from my great-grandfather. Like my great-grandfather was he got arrested for moonshining. My great-grandmother was arrested for bootlegging. So I come by my problems, honestly. I'm carrying on the family tradition. So how do we know if we're at a awakening or a transition? When you're having deep questions and you're not sure which way to go, you're asking yourself about certain truths. In my life, are these really truths? Am I telling myself the truth, or am I bullshitting myself? And then you want to look at your family history, and something happened in family history that I need to look at.
The pain.
Yeah, I didn't say it was easy, did I? So until next week, not next week, until later on this week, be careful, be cool, be kind.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it was my pleasure. And I will talk to you again later in the week. Okay, bye-bye.